Hey everybody, and welcome to Ninja Padre Coaching. And we're here in my basement where we're going to do some work on the basement of your heart. We're going to work on those areas that we don't talk about upstairs in the living room or with friends or colleagues. But they need to be worked on. They need some change or at least some refining. And today we're working on something that frankly most people never talk about, and that's our internal monologue or our self-talk. What self-talk is the statements we make inside of our head generally about ourselves. So for instance, for a long time I was incredibly overweight. I was 90 pounds more than I am now, and back in 2006 or 7 is when I lost about 90 pounds and kind of got my life right. And it took some really traumatic events to get me to that point. But the most important change I made was my self-talk. Now, what got me to make that change? Well, I remember one day I was studying, I was in grad school. It was my first year had just finished, and I went for life insurance. I was this Dave Ramsey follower and knew I needed life insurance. So I went to my bank and I applied, and they sent a nurse who took your blood pressure and stuff. And I thought I was pretty healthy. I thought I was in decent shape. I'd gotten out of the military a few years ago and before this point and said, oh, I'm in okay shape. And I got denied life insurance at like 24 because my blood pressure was so high, my weight was so high. And I was so disappointed, I went and popped on an episode of The Simpsons. Now I start watching The Simpsons, because I love The Simpsons, and I weighed more than Homer weighed at his max weight. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm doing something completely wrong with my life. And I realized that I needed to change. But I tried losing weight before and it just didn't stay off. So how did I change? I changed my self-talk. I started telling myself like, I am fit. I am a runner. I used to say like, I hate running. And I became, no, I am a runner. I don't hate it. I love it. Now, why is it so important? Your brain runs on two systems. There's system 1 and system 2. Daniel Kahneman in his groundbreaking work, Thinking Fast and Slow, talks about this. And most of us would like to think we run off of that constructive, intentional thought, which is called System 2. Instead, that's just not the case at all. We run mostly off of our background programming in our unconscious mind, or System 1. That process runs your life. And what you put in that programming determines how you function most of the time. So if you're going around saying like, I'm fit, I'm healthy, I'm happy, that's the programming you're going to run off of. If your self-talk is the opposite and it's much more negative and demeaning of yourself, that's what you're going to run off of. Now, some of that isn't your fault. I want you to know that. Most of the time, the judgments and things we have been given to us by relatives, friends, the people who raised us, people around us, or organizations have said things like, oh, you're fat, you're not enough, you're stupid, whatever it may be. That's kind of been ingested in your system and it becomes part of your self-talk, which becomes your reality. So we want to change it. And this week I'm going to be writing some blog posts on this, but I'm going to use some animals. Because who doesn't love animals? I mean, I do. I go to the Denver Zoo all the time, kind of one of my favorite places. So the first thing I want to look at, and the first area where you can work on life and in your self-talk, is around the peacock. And the peacock is actually the male version of the peafowl. And that's important if you ever end up on Jeopardy. Because I always thought they were just all peacocks. There's a male and female peacock, but they aren't. There's the peafowl and the peacock is the male version. Gee whiz. But if you ever see a peacock, to me, they represent this confidence. They go around and they're just like, look at my stuff. They just go around, and their peacocking is even a term we use for people who do that, who go around with extravagant clothes or appearance, and they show up kind of big. And you say, okay, well, there's some confidence there. So what I'd like to use the peacock to represent for you is your confidence, and using an affirmation called I am confident. You just go around and say, I am confident. I am confident. Now, you may not feel confident. In fact, you might feel the complete opposite of it. But if you think back to when you were a little kid, or have seen little kids around, they're the ones that are like dancing in the mall, or just drawing this picture that probably isn't that great, like the picture in back of me, and they're like, it's like Monet. Like, I mean, the way that they show it is like, I have created something amazing with Play-Doh. But their confidence is what comes through. Now, you can get back to that original programming really easily. And the way to work on that programming, that big subconscious part of your brain, is to use I am statements. When we say I am, it tells your subconscious mind that this is the new identity I want. And then your reticular activating system, another part of your brain, says, well, here I am. So for instance, one example might be, I am fit. but your brain says, in my current context, I am not fit. I am overweight. But by visualizing and saying, I am fit over and over again, your brain says, I want to be congruent with this statement. This is the important statement, the I am statement. It's an identity statement. So it starts to use your brain and biases to get you to this state, almost on autopilot. Now you might think that seems like voodoo witch magic, but it isn't. A practical example of this, if you've ever looked for a car, if you're looking for a Kia Soul, you will see them everywhere. Everyone's driving a Kia Soul. If you're looking for the new Tesla Cybertruck, you might not see them right now, but maybe in a few years you will. Whatever vehicle you're looking for, when you say, I want to get that, you'll start seeing them all over the place, because your brain normally would filter them out with the other mass of cars you drove by. But instead, the filter has been changed to say, look for this kind of vehicle. The same thing with confidence. So back to the peacock example. If you say, I am confident, you're going to be able to find situations where you can exhibit that confidence. Now, it takes about 3 to 4 weeks, anywhere from 21 to 28 days to instill a habit. So I'm going to ask that the first thing is to be like a peacock for 28 days. And I'm not saying dress up like a peacock or get that new cologne or that suave new gold chain. Instead, go out and say, like, I am confident. Just in your mind over and over again. In those times when you're not confident, when you don't want to stand up and talk, you don't want to raise your hand, you don't want to go talk to that person you're interested in, instead try this, I am confident. Just say it over and over again in your brain and do it consistently. The second thing I'd like to go over, and using the analogy of a monkey. For years I used to say, I've got a monkey mind. My brain goes all over the place. And what I would do is justify my kind of poor mental processes. Now, mind you, I think having a monkey mind actually could be super helpful. If you're an analyst or somebody who researches all kinds of topics for a living, having a monkey mind allows your brain to go from topic to topic and synthesize data really quickly. It's kind of like those rare people that can flip through channels and kind of get what's going on at every single channel. And that might be kind of easy depending on what you're flipping through. But for the most part, you're kind of synthesizing information quickly. But if this is happening in all areas of your life, it can become a problem. So for me, I love reading books, but I'll have like 5 books on the table and bounce between books. So if I have like 2 hours to read, I would go like book, like all the way around, which is kind of a little bit odd. Some of you are probably saying like, he's crazy. Maybe a little bit. It's not just the beard. But what we see is a monkey mind can be honed. A monkey mind can say, well, instead of reading 5 books or 3 books, I'm going to go between 2. I'm going to go between 1. Or the books I'm going to reading are in a specific genre designed to help me advance my thoughts. It becomes a way to discipline your mind to focus more. And for me, I found that by focusing my reading, so in my case, I, no kidding, have 3 books upstairs, which are, again, it's only 3, which is good, but they're all in the same genre. So at least if I'm going to bounce and allow my brain to bounce, I have it disciplined to a specific area. Now with audiobooks, I was actually able to discipline myself to 1 book at a time. So I will only go through 1 book at a time. Now I have a long list of audiobooks I'm getting to that are in my queue, but I'll go through 1 book at a time. Because if not, I would just keep bouncing from podcast to book, and then I would forget different topics. And it just wasn't helpful for me. So disciplining the monkey mind is the key thing. So we started with the peacock, went to the monkey. The third one's the Lion King. The Lion King? No, actually the lion. So the lion as an illustration is for strength. I love the movie The Lion King. In fact, if you know me, you've heard this story. If not, don't tell anyone, this is embarrassing. But the first CD, which is like an MP3 in a circle that we used to buy for those of us who were a little older, I went to the mall and bought, it was the Lion King soundtrack, the limited edition soundtrack in 1994. So I went out and bought it. It's wonderful. I can feel the love tonight. I can sing everything on there, right? That CD was really transformed me. I guess is a good way to say it. Like, I just love the Lion King. And I love the new one too, which puts me in like a very small queue of people. But that said, the new one actually did exceptionally well in the theaters. So for those of you who may say, I saw it, didn't like it, I think it's number 7 of all time grossing movies, number 7 or 9. You can fact check me after this. But the point of a lion in The Lion King is strength. And if you recall Simba, he's a little cub. He has to go through these difficult challenges, and he has to learn how to become a good king. And that involves a lot of loss, a lot of grief, a lot of trauma. In fact, you think he's lost his dad, he's lost where he lived, he lost access to his relatives, his whole community falls apart while he's away, while he's Hakuna Matataing again. That means no worries till the end of your days, if you're wondering. You're welcome. But back to the lion, Simba is learning how to be strong through difficulty. I guarantee you've gone through something hard. You've gone through grief, you've gone through transition, you've gone through loss. It has been hard. It is difficult. It seems impossible. The diagnosis came back bad. The treatment is super hard. The outcome wasn't what you expected. That tragedy is key in you becoming the strong lion. If you didn't go through that difficulty, no matter how hard it is, you wouldn't be the king or queen you're called to be. That's not easy. It doesn't make it just a point or blip in your journey. It doesn't negate what you went through or are going through, but that becomes the most critical part of your adventure. If you've ever met somebody who's either lost a child or a cancer survivor, and I've had the privilege of working with some of those people who are profound, profound human beings. Those people are the strongest people you'll ever meet. When you never wish those tragedies on anyone. But when you meet them who've navigated it successfully, you're like, oh my gosh, that person is a rock star. Because they've been through such intense difficulty. The intense difficulty is what produces amazing strength. Always. You'll never meet someone who's super strong who hasn't been through the ringer of their life. And that might be a message that you need to hear today. So for you to be the lion and you are in these difficult situations and you feel like there's no way out, like you're walking through mud maybe, is a good analogy I've used and feel like I've experienced. Self-talk, I am strong. I am strong. And again, do it for 3 to 4 weeks every day, even when you don't believe it. When you're looking in the mirror and you're like, I am strong, say it. Do it, write it, because what you're going through is going to be the most important part of your life for your destiny. Write it down. You don't have to believe me now, but do it. Final one's the unicorn. Now, the unicorn's kind of interesting. It has all kinds of neat mythological pieces that I could run into. It's a symbol of Scotland, for instance. Most importantly, it's in Harry Potter. Woo! It's in the Forbidden Forest next to Hogwarts. Shout out to Hagrid. Just have to do that. But the unicorn is exceptionally rare, is the bottom line. Regardless of what you look at, what drawing, it was just special and rare. And you are too. So the odds of you being here are like 10 to the 2,600,000th power. So that's like a 10 with 2,600,000 zeros afterwards. It's unreal. Like the odds of you being here are simply non-existent. There are tons of parallels. Business Insider has a great article about this, but the odds of you doing what you're doing and being here, breathing oxygen on this planet are just so small. It's functionally impossible. That makes you in some ways a unicorn. You're special, you're unique, you have a special message to give to this world. You have a destiny that no one else has. The question is, are you going to live it out? And how you do that is by recognizing you are enough. It's so easy. I am enough. And yet so hard. Because your culture says you aren't. Our culture says you're everything but enough. That you need more, that you need to have more, you need to do more, etc. But they never say you're enough. You never reach the peak. If you ever see somebody who's pushed hard, they're millionaires, and they get to that point where they're like, oh, I finally got this much money in the bank. If you talk to them, most of the time, they're still just aiming for the next achievement. They're just working harder. They don't ever rest and sit back and say, wow, I achieved my goal. I am enough. And I think the critical piece of any growth is always aim to grow, but in the midst of the growth, wherever you are, you're enough. You want to lose 90 pounds, but you lost 10, you're enough. You want to make $1 million, but you've only paid off your debt or a part of your debt, you're enough. You are enough, regardless of what anyone tells you. In fact, my wife has a tattoo on her wrist. We have tattoos in our family, lots and lots of tattoos. But in this case, she has I am enough, beautifully enough specifically on her wrist. And the reason she has it is to serve as a constant reminder for her self-talk. Because so much of our culture says that you're just not enough. But you, watching this, are enough. And just like the unicorn, it might be rare. People might look at you weird. I mean, you got a horn in your head. You're white and glowy. But in this case, like, you're enough. and do it and own it, and you'll have confidence that rarely is seen in our society. So this week, work on your self-talk. I want to thank you for listening. I know this was a little bit of a longer one, but I just so appreciate your support, and I love your feedback. So if you get any feedback on how to improve this, still learning. And also, I'd suggest if you want to try the visualization meditation I have with this, hopefully that'll be helpful and serve you as well. Have a great day. Bye.